Hello and welcome to Twisted Narrative Talks all things Shadowdark. This is the second video in the series. Shadowdark still in Kickstarter, doing incredibly well. Old school gaming, new school mechanics, and today we'll be taking an in-depth look at the Shadowdark Quickstarter Game Masters Guide. Welcome all, Andy from Twisted Narrative here. We have the beautiful sort of cover here. This is the Game Master Quickstarter Guide, and it can be downloaded for free together with the Player's Guide. If you go to Arcane Library's website, follow the link to their Kickstarter, and then on their Kickstarter page there's a link for you to be able to download that. Very, very much recommend you do. This game has become my new obsession for the moment. It's taking me back to the time that genuinely when you really kind of picked up a game, you wanted to play it immediately. It's rules light, very intuitive, incredibly well put together, and that tagline, old school gaming, new school mechanics, is spot on. It's got that old feel that I truly love, but with all of the very sweet new school mechanics that make playing the game fun, intuitive. It's very, very nicely put together. We're going to look at this now. Obviously, this is the Game Master's Quick Starter Guide, so there will be some spoilers if you're a player, so please bear that in mind. Also, please bear in mind that I'm not going to focus on all of the creatures that are in here and all of the magic items, because again, that's part of the wonderment of playing one of these games. If you want to have take your time and examine all of these creatures, you can get it for free. You can go to their Kickstarter page, Arcane Libraries. The link is in the channel description below. Easy enough to do. It's yours for free, and if you like it, support them on Kickstarter. Go there and choose the tier that is appropriate for you. Okay, well, let's do this then. So, as we sort of come down, just like the player's guide, we've got these tables here. These are the kind of things that you would have sort of clipped to your DM screen. I'm not going to go through all of this because all of these rules are covered in the main body of the book. But again, we can see that more tables for that. And then we come to the page where Shadowdark and writing, design, and dungeon cartography and layout by Kelsey Dion, and she's done an amazing job, as everybody is with the Arcane Library. Beautiful artwork, a lot of the black and white line draw artwork and everything else. It is a work of art, as I keep saying. So, contents, what have we got in the Game Master's Guide? We've got the introduction, Game Master, so running the game, core ethos, awarding XP, random encounters, traps, hazards, something happens, rumors, ruins, encounters, monster part, monster attributes, monster statistics, treasure overview, treasure for levels 0 to 3, magic item attributes, magic items, and there is even a pre-prepared mini module, Lost Citadel of the Scarlet Minotaur, to be run as well, which we are not going to cover today, because again, spoilers and everything else. I also believe there is a YouTube video of the Lost Citadel of the Scarlet Minotaur on Arcane Library's YouTube channel, so you can easily hop across to there and give them a like, subscribe, and view it. So there's a lot of very, very cool videos up there that will help you get into Shadowdark. So one of the main reasons for wanting to share the Game Master's Guide is there's some information here that is key to, I think, running any kind of game, whether it's Shadowdark or anything else. A lot of what I'm about to sort of cover in this initial part of the video, I truly hold on to with my heart, and it's the way that I approach games. Obviously, you can approach your games in any way you want, but it's really resonated with me. So, introduction, game mastering. Welcome, Games Master, and congratulations. Thank you. You are the chosen one. I knew it all along. You join a long and honoured history of monumental gamers who have shaped countless imaginations. Their legacy is now yours. Again, that's very, very nice, encompassing, non-gatekeepering. It's welcoming people to take on the mantle of becoming a game master, and this is key. Without game masters, games don't tend to run. As the game master, it is your job to lead the table in all things. That means that you set the bar, the way you speak, the energy you bring to the game, and the speed you set carries over to everyone else around you. Absolutely, I've noticed it. It's very important that a game master is enjoying what they do, and that energy, that enjoyment, that passion washes over the rest of the table. So, spot on. There will be times when you must guide a shy player, when you must firmly call for focus during off-topic chatter, and when you must declare in a hushed whisper that all fate hangs on a single roll of the dice. Again, beautifully written. It is important to direct the table and to ensure that everybody is having fun, whether it is the shy player, the introvert, or whether it is to get everybody's focus back. So once again, beautifully written. Do not shrink from your task, even when all light is extinguished, all hit points are gone. It is you that carries the torch. Again, very nice, and referencing one of the key mechanics in Shadowdark. Your eyes only. The core rules of Shadowdark are found in the Player Quickstarter Guide. You should refer to it for the main game rules alongside the players. We covered that in quite an extensive video. You can find that on our YouTube channel. However, the material in this book, the Games Master's Quick Start Guide, is for your eyes only. So, Game Masters, carry on watching my video. I don't often tell people to stop viewing my videos, but we've been told, and yeah, absolutely. I kind of mentioned sort of spoilers. If you're planning to be a Games Master, stay with me. If you're going to be a player, seek out the other video. Do it. No spoilers. The dire nature of monsters, the mysteries of magical treasure, and the fascinating secrets of adventuring sites are the things characters should discover through gameplay. There was never any fun had in knowing all the surprises before they happen. And again, 100% right. And I think it goes beyond just rules here. I think one of the great things about Shadowdark is the way that it is put together. You're always on a roller coaster ride. It's a lower hit point system. There's no real certainties. So, there could be great wealth around the corner, or there could be death at any really given point. And that is one of the things that has really drawn me to this game. Okay, what to do describe what the characters newly perceive and let the players respond to that with actions. Call for checks when those actions require skill, and then start again from the top. Nicely written. We've got some cool artwork of the Shadowdark steps going down, large sort of drops, crevasses, and it's just really nice, this winding labyrinth of tunnels deep below. Game Master. At times the Shadowdark seemed sentient in its malevolence. It was though I will read that again. At times the Shadowdark seemed sentient in its malevolence. It was as though some hand guided it. Beautifully written, badly read by me. Running the game. The Game Master. The Game Master is the world spinner, the all-wise, the ventriloquist. You are the deadly pit trap and the assassin in the night. You are the storm, the army, the gods. You hold ultimate power. Yet, you only want one thing, to see your players triumph. I mean, that again, in 4 paragraphs, a few lines really, kind of sums everything up. As a game master, yeah, you can pit anything against the players. But as it says, you want one thing, to see your players triumph. You should be the greatest fan of your players. You should revel in their critical successes. It makes it fun to not have the game be you versus them kind of attitude, and I applaud this and agree with it as well, and I think that is just beautifully written in such a small number of sentences. I'm going to say this a lot because this is I think it's been done in very, very clever way. So you craft malevolent villains worth defeating, you sculpt marvellous treasures worth stealing, you fill the world with rot, darkness and death so it can be driven back by sword, spell and flame. Through this you offer an invitation, you propose it loudly with roaring dragons, humbly with helpless villagers, secretly with hidden maps. You call the players to a venture and they answer. I mean, this really just makes me want to run a game now. Now, where are you players? Come join me. The only rule is that you make the rules. What's written in this book is a guide, not a constraint, and none of it takes precedent over your judgment. If something doesn't work at your table, change it or throw it out and don't look back. Again, beautiful. Whatever makes the action move, whatever's great for your players and you to do. The system is really rules light. I don't think you'll be throwing much out. You'll probably be adding stuff, but rather than discounting stuff. But this only rule, this one rule, sort of enables you, gives you that power to do that, literally telling you. This is an important paragraph, or a few paragraphs as well. The pact. You and the players are gaming together to have fun, prop each other up and strengthen bonds. This is the pact. The pact is often unspoken and unseen, but it is always felt. It is based on goodwill, respect and fellowship. Its enemies are selfless, antagonistic and arrogant. Decisions are made to defend the pact are always good ones. Again, beautiful. Cooperative gaming, very, very important. All here to tell a story, all here to have fun at the table. I genuinely think this page here is one of the best written descriptions of what a game master and players and how they come together that I've ever seen. Setting DCs. 4 standard DCs of easy, normal, hard, and extreme are universal and help you quickly decide a DC, a difficulty setting or difficulty challenge. When determining the difficulty of a task, take the creature into account. Finding a trail in a sunny field would be an easy task for a forest elf with tracking skills, but it'd be a hard task for a sun-dazzled cave troll. When you ask players to make a check, state what kind of check it is. For example, an easy charisma check or a DC 15 dexterity check. That way the players know what they will need to roll to succeed. Be transparent. It builds that bond, it builds that trust that is mentioned in the pack, and allow the dice to tell a story. I love that as well. Challenge variety. The characters should face a multitude of challenges during an adventure, including combat, dealing with the NPCs, overcoming the environment. Each class excels at different tasks. Thieves love to scout and talk to NPCs. Fighters and clerics shine in combat, and wizards dominate the environment. Again, kind of trying to prompt party cohesion, that kind of old school feel of having different skills amongst the characters. Character skill versus player skill. Characters aren't the only ones who level up. Players also gain experience. This is quite a unique look as far as I'm aware. But it's true. You know, the more games that a player plays, the more that they learn about the mechanics of the game, the lore of the setting and the like. For example, players will learn where to look for secret doors and what the tells are. As they go on more adventures, they become better at gameplay. Encourage this by giving players the opportunity to make decisions that rely on their creativity of wits, not their dice rolls or stat bonuses. Very nice. So it's basically giving agency to the players. Taking away that statement of, oh, I'm not sure whether my character will be able to do this. Again, whatever is more fun at the table. Rules versus rulings. If there were a rule for every situation, we'd be living inside the rule book instead of the game world. Again, such a simple paragraph, but so true. As the GM, you have infinite power with only a handful of rules. Stat checks and the standard DCs can resolve any action. You need nothing more. Rather than pour through the book, adjudicate using what you already know. Make a ruling, roll the dice and keep going. Yeah, play the game. Again, very, very nicely written. And there's nothing I can really comment on other than saying I think they are 100% correct. Core ethos. These are Shadowdark RPG's core principles and foundations. Time, the most important resource. It must haunt the characters' every decision. They don't have time to search every floor tile for a trap. Darkness. Respect the darkness. It is the true foe. Few things can hold it at bay, and nothing must make those prized tools obsolete. Gear. Gear is precious and limited. Give a value and utility to all of it. Action economy. PCs, player characters, and get just one action per turn. Make it count. Use multitasking for boring small stuff. Information. Dispense information freely. If the characters test the floor where there's a trap, they find it. Distance. Close, near and far distances are loose and don't require precise measurement. Nobody wants to miss firing an arrow into a dragon's eye because of a mere 5-foot deficit. Again, really nice. Focus on the action rather than the mundane of missing by a hair's breadth. Danger. Casting spells come with great risk. Magic items are volatile. Fights are fast and unfair. Monsters are insidious. Rewarding investment. Honor what has been earned. If a character learns a new language, make it matter. Allow new titles or iconic deeds to have an impact on characters' lives. Checks. The characters automatically succeed at what they're trained to do. Only use checks when there is a time pressure and failure has dire consequences. I mean, that is very, very good. It kind of sets the tone of a Shadowdark game, but it's also, as someone who is most definitely going to write and homebrew some Shadowdark games, it's gave me a clear now insight to the kind of things that should definitely be included in the design of such a one shot or campaign. Time, darkness, gear, very, very important foundations. Awarding XP experience points. Characters gain XP from the valuable treasures and boons they earn during an adventure. XP awards don't need to reflect monetary value. Boons or fabled items have intangible worth. Treasure has 4 categories: poor, awards 0 XP, normal 1 XP, fabulous 3 XP, legendary 10 XP. So poor, mundane, low value, ordinary, unexciting, normal, good value, worth protecting, useful, fabulous, incredible, prized, well guarded, legendary, mythic, unique, quest worthy. Each PC gets the full XP value of each treasure. When a PC gains a new level, their XP resets to 0. So that's interesting. So if you find a treasure, each PC will get that. You don't split the XP value amongst the player characters. Sources of XP: golden gems, oaths, secrets and blessings, magic items, meaningful trophies and tokens, clever thinking. Award 1 XP for ingenious actions. How much gold? Over time, PCs will earn and lose gold through adventuring, carousing and buying gear. Per encounter, each group should gain about 10 gold pieces times their average party level in value, or 20 gold pieces in value for levels 1 to 3, 50 gold pieces in value for 4 to 6, 80 gold pieces in value for levels 7 to 9. I've not focused on the math on that, but if you've got that's each group should gain about 10 gold per encounter times their average party level. I would have to do the maths on that. XP for treasure quality, so there we go. Poor XP 0 examples is a bag of silver, used dagger, knucklebone dice. Normal is a bag of gold, a gem, fine armor, magic scroll. Fabulous is a magic sword, giant diamond, mithril, chainmail. Legendary, the staff of Ord, Jin's wish, a dragon's hoard. Very cool. And again, all it's doing is making me want to run the game now. Random encounters. Purpose. Random encounters are a way to keep the time pressure up. If the characters linger too long, they run the risk of more encounters. How often? The Game Master checks for random encounters during crawling rounds, not combat, based on the environment's danger level. So unsafe, you check every 3 rounds. Risky, you check every 2 rounds. Deadly, you check every round. This is interesting. There's a clock going on in the background as you crawl. We mentioned in our previous video in the player's guide that initiative is always going. Players have turns. Once all the players have acted, that is the end of a round. So to check for a random encounter, the GM rolls a d6 and encounter occurs on a roll of a 1. This has got a really nice old school feel to it as well. GM might also check for an encounter if the characters create loud disturbance. For the overland travel, check for random encounters based on hours in place of rounds. Starting distance, if 1 or more wandering creatures appear, roll a d6 to see what their distance is from the group. This is nice as well. So on a 1 it's close, on a 2 to 4 it's near, and 5 to 6 it's far. What is it doing? When the characters encounter new creatures, roll to determine the creature's current activity. This might impact how likely they are to notice the characters. Again, this is fun because not every encounter has to be a combat encounter. So 2d6, we've got, there might be hunting, there might be eating, building, nesting, socializing, playing, guarding, or sleeping. And then we come on to a reaction check. When the characters encounter random creatures, the Game Master rolls for the creature's attitude if it would not already be clear. And that's very cool as well. They've put that in so that, you know, if the characters have made themselves a nuisance, it is obviously that they are more likely to be hostile to them. But if it's not already clear, you can roll a dice to determine it. If the characters immediately interact with the creatures to influence their attitude, one of the interacting characters may add their charisma modifier to the reaction check. Again, that's really nice, really simple to use. Adding the charisma modifier pushes it towards potentially neutral, curious, or friendly. The interacting characters reveal their presence and position to the creatures. Some vicious creatures, such as undead, are always hostile. Good to know. So 2d6 could be hostile, could be suspicious, could be neutral, could be curious, could even be friendly. And I love this. If you roll and you get friendly, and it kind of doesn't make sense, you as a GM then have to come up with some kind of very interesting way of kind of weaving that into the tale that we are telling. Treasure. There is 50% chance a randomly encountered creature or group of creatures has no treasure. So again, that fundamentally explains that not all random encounters will be carrying treasure, but you have a 50-50 chance of gaining some treasure. Then we come on to traps. Traps add peril and surprise to crawling. Characters typically get to make a relevant check to avoid a trap's effect. A tell. Most traps should have a hint or tell. Be careful not to make traps too frequent or the game's pace will suffer. Very, very important information. You can end up with player paralysis if they think that there is a trap, every step. But at the same point, they should be looking out for these hints and tells as well. Finding. Characters who search a specific area or object for a trap automatically finds it. That is very cool. So you can find the trap, but disabling it. Thieves and characters who are trained in tinkering can describe how they disable or circumvent a trap. If the character has enough time and uses a reasonable method, the character succeeds. If there is a time pressure or the trap requires a great deal of skill to deactivate, the GM might call for a check. So again, this is indicative of the style of Shadowdark, in the fact that sometimes if you've got the time, if you can come up with clever ways of doing it, no rolls are needed. But this does eat into your time, and time is the true enemy, in the fact that that causes your light to burn down, which indeed burns up your resources, and you have to decide whether you're going to leave the dangerous area of Shadowdark, or whether you're going to venture forward with rapidly diminishing resources. There's a nice little table there, D12, with the trap and the trigger and the type of damage it could be. Obviously, you can homebrew these, but there's a lot of very nice ideas. So, for instance, you could roll a 3 toxic gas, a 6, which is closing a door, and an 8, we should say, which is 2d8 damage or a confuse effect. You can roll all of these to make a fairly large number of unique types of trap. I do like tables. And then we come on to hazards. Hazards add passive danger to a venturing environment. There is no way to defeat or permanently disable them. Unlike traps, most hazards are obvious from the start. Movement restrictions. Some hazards inhibit and prevent movement, such as quicksand, pools, or slippery ice. Hazards can even funny entrap characters. Damage. Some hazards deal ongoing damage, such as toxic spores or acid rain. Weakening. Some hazards weaken or hamper characters. These could include anti-magic zones or vapors that sap physical strength. Combining. The most insidious hazards combine one or more of these types in a single threat. And very much like traps, you've got a nice little table there with some very interesting things, everything from gravity flux to anti-magic zones to sickening smell, and everything in between. Another table, and this is a very big table. This is a D100 table, so we've got something happens. You roll the percentile dice, and on a 0-1, the ground shakes violently and a massive fissure opens. All of these are very nice. A dwarf in a red hat hands you a rose, bows and leaves. It makes you wonder what is going on. On 100, 0-0, a radiant being appears to you with a message of warning. 98 to 99, a demon appears to you and presents a tempting offer. Very, very cool. I say I love tables. Something happens. If you neat up the pace, you can roll on that and see what happens. Then we've got some rumours. Quite often, players, their characters will want to interact with some of the creatures. They might capture them and interrogate them, or they might befriend them. And sometimes you might be stuck for information you want to tell them. So again, this is another D100 table, and a lot of very interesting plot hooks. If you don't want to randomize it, you can obviously choose, and obviously you can have a list of rumors that are appropriate to your game setting as well, or wherever they are crawling at the moment. Ruins encounters, yet another table. and this is very good. This is encounters in ruins. So a mutilated cave brute explodes through the crumbling wall on a 0-1. Mort the goblin is digging in cracks for grubs and beetles. So again, this flavours. It's not just you roll an encounter and oh yeah, it's 3 goblins. This brings it alive, weaves the encounter into the story, and sort of brings the game from a board game into a role-playing game with narrative flavour. And I have to say, I love this piece of artwork. It did freak out my co-host on the 6 o'clock club, Christian, but it is very, very both terribly horrific and beautifully done at the same time. And the more you look at it, the more details you see. So we are coming on to monsters. Some horrors that writhe and creep in the darkness were never meant to be seen by our eyes. Krieg, human wizard. We will go through the monster attributes just so you can see. Armor class, just like characters, monsters have an armor class that denotes how difficult it is to harm them. Hit points, calculate a monster's hit points by rolling a number of d8s per monster's level and adding its con modifier. You can also use the average total listed. Attacks. Most monsters can make 1 or 2 attacks per turn, but some can make more. Attack bonuses and damage are listed for each. Movement. Monsters can typically move near each turn, but some can move other distances. If a monster has a special mode of movement such as flying or swimming, it is noted after the distance. Stat modifiers. Monsters have modified list for strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Alignment. All monsters have typical alignments for their species. Individual monsters might have a different alignment. And again, that final sentence is, it is okay to have, I suppose in Shadowdark it would be a lawful individual of a typical chaotic species. Mix it up, whatever makes a good story, and you have a ruling on that. Spellcasting. Treat monster spellcasting the same as character spellcasting. For a natural 1 on int or charisma spell roll, you roll on the wizard mishap tables. Natural 1 on wisdom spell incurs penance. The tier is the spellcasting DC -10. Dark adapted. All non-humanoid monsters are dark adapted. Their powerful senses allow them to ignore the penalties in total darkness. Blinding or deafening a monster still hinders it. Yes, the dark. Be very, very scared of the dark. So, monster statistics. We're going to have a look at just this page here. I say I don't overly want to give any kind of massive spoilers out, but at the same point it's nice to see that the stats are very straightforward, and it allows you to be creative as well. I'll see what you mean. If we look at Bandit said it's basically a hard bitten rogue in tattered leathers and a hooded cloak. A nice descriptor. Armor class 13, leather and a shield. Hit points 4. Attack is 1 club, +1 to attack, which does 1d4 damage, or a short bow, which you can shoot far. No modifier to hit and is 1d4 damage. It can move near, which is basically around about 30 feet. Strength +1, intelligence -1, and charisma -1. It's a level 1 creature and its alignment is chaotic. But it has this ability, ambush, deal an extra dice or die of damage when undetected. So if it shoots from the dark, it will be ambushing and it would do 2d4 instead. And I kind of like these special abilities because it allows you to sort of tweak and create different types of special abilities for these creatures that you might meet. So this is on page 27, and as you can see, there's a large number of monsters that you might have heard of before from other systems, or newly named monsters, and there's 10 pages of it, and then we come to another awesome piece of artwork here by, I believe, Mark Lyons, by the looks of that. And again, it's modern, but it's got that old school feel of it, that mummy or lich rising from the throne, treasure all around it, but horrifying at the same time. Love it. And that brings us on to treasure. What's the big deal? He's not using it. Relina, halfling thief, prying a ruby from the skull. Oh, we've got a little bit of narrative here. Torben fumed and huffed, lowering Relina bit by bit. The rope groaned where it was wrapped around his waist and hands. More slack, Relina called up from inside the wide square pit. Jorbin let a few more lengths slide by. Not that much, Relina shrieked in a moment later. The dwarf growled an oath and hauled the rope back up. Krieg sat cross-legged next to the pit and puffed on his pipe. 50 gold the dwarf drops her, he said. Iraga, a holy templar of Saint Terragonis, cast a disdainful look at the wizard. You know my beliefs on gambling, she said. She raised an index finger. 100 gold or you're a coward. I got it, Relina shouted from below. Everybody scrambled to look. At the bottom of the pit, the halfling stood before a black pedestal. She lifted a sparkling grapefruit-sized sapphire overhead. See, she said, and all of you stewing about traps. Behind Relina, a puff of air hissed. Everyone froze. The pedestal sank into the floor with a clockwork grind. The pit's walls began trembling. A reverberating tick-tock picked up speed. Krieg's shout broke the spell. Get her out. Iraga and Jorbin pulled up the rope in chaotic, frantic unison. The ticking hit a peak as Krieg reached down for Relina's hand. Boom. The pit's crushing walls slammed together. Next to it, the four crawlers lied in a tangled heap. Didn't even drop it, Relina's muffled voice. Very nice little bit of prose there. Treasure overview. Treasure. Treasure is the driving force behind characters' advancement. Claiming treasure grants characters XP and gives them valuable resources. Wandering monsters have only a 50% chance of carrying treasure. They're poor sources of XP and valuables. Interesting to note, really. Fleeting, corrosing in the Shadowdark RPG cool rulebook. So you will have to You will have to be tempted by the Kickstarter to see the rules for carousing. Allows PCs to gain experience fast, but they'll soon need to go adventuring again to replenish their pockets. Treasure tables. You can use treasure tables to randomly determine what loot a monster is carrying. The table the monster used corresponds to its level. For example, a level 2 monster uses a treasure table of 0 to 3. Shadowdark RPG core has most tables for higher level monsters. Unguarded. The GM can randomly generate unguarded treasure by rolling the treasure table that matches the discovering the character's level. For example, a 6th level wizard finds a treasure chest. The wizard rolls on the treasure 4 to 6 table to determine what's inside. Dealing with loot. Treasure typically occupies 1 gear slot. Coins occupy 1 slot per 100, but the GM might determine otherwise. Characters can sell most treasure based on its material value, but they may need to find a curio collector to offload strange or obscure items. Magic item values. Magic items can rarely be bought or sold. In such a case, weak magic items are worth 1d6 times 100. Powerful ones, if not priceless, are worth 2d6 times 100. So no buying magical items unless your GM says very rarely can it be. So the only real way to get magic items is to descend down into the Shadowdark. And again, we've got some lovely treasure tables here. So D100 on a D1 bent tin fork, and then it kind of goes all the way down to 00. Magic weapon, beneficial, worth 200 gold pieces. What is interesting, it hasn't mentioned it here, but what you can do with these tables is whilst it's a D100, you don't necessarily need to roll a D100. For instance, if it's a creature or an item that isn't particularly valuable, you could say roll a D20, and you could at the most get a chipped great axe on a 20, but you could get some of these other items as well. And conversely, you could roll 5d20 because that would give you a number. Well, you could roll a number of other dice, maybe not 5d20. I'm just doing maths. 5d20 would give you a roll from 5 to 100. So maybe 10d10, meaning that you have a greater chance of getting higher numbers here. I think you get what I mean. Magic item attributes. Qualities. A magic item can have some or all of the following qualities. Bonus. Magic armor and weapons can have a bonus from +0 to +3. Armor with a bonus adds that amount to its armor class and it grants. A weapon with a bonus adds that amount to its attack and damage roll. +0 items are the most frequent, and +3 are very rare. Benefit. Supernatural benefit gifted to the item's wielder. Most magic items have at least one benefit. Curse. A negative effect bestowed upon the item's wielder. Some magic items have a curse. Personality. A few magic items are conscious and have personalities that include virtues, flaws, a trait, and an alignment. Magic items with personalities can communicate telepathically with their wielders. So magic item idea generator, again very useful. So you've got a name. So if we do what we did before, so we go for 3, 8 and 12, whatever. So it'll be Ortyville's Tome the Lich Queen. Very fun way just to create some unique items. Consumables. A creature must drink an entire potion or use an entire consumable item to gain its effects. The user decides the order in which the effects take place on a consumed item. So again, we don't overly want any spoilers here, but so we're going to skip through the magic items, but we'll take a quick look. A bag of holding, a familiar item to all adventurers. A worn leather pouch with tight strings. Benefit: this bag has an interdimensional space inside it that can hold up to 10 gear slots. Curse: placing an item inside another bag of holding or portable hold destroys both items and or items held inside them. So doesn't kind of rip a hole into the multiverse, but quite simply says placing this item inside another bag of holding or portable hold destroys both items and all held items inside them. Very nice, very succinct as well. There are plenty of magic items here, and no doubt there is a much more extended list in the core book, once again, currently on Kickstarter. You mention it again if you miss the front. If you look down in the description of this video, you'll see a link to Arcane Library's website where you can find the Kickstarter. A beautiful picture of a Minotaur fighting a warrior. Very, very cool, full of dynamics there. Then we come on to the Lost Citadel of the Scarlet Minotaur, a 1st to 3rd level adventure for Shadowdark. The Red Devil will find you one way or another. Muggings Greenbottle, renowned tomb robber. This is very cool. And as I said before, you can read that yourself. There is a video walkthrough of the adventure at youtube.com/the Arcane Library. And I would direct you there. I'm not going to read through it. I don't want to give spoilers for the adventure. If you are a games master and you want to run it, head over to the YouTube channel of the Arcane Library, seek it out there and watch all of their other awesome videos as well. So that is it really for the Shadowdark RPG Game Masters Guide. The final page is adventuring site name, random table. You can have, we'll do the 3, 8 and 12 again. So the Tower of 8, the Tower of the Fallen, and 12 Storm. So the Tower of the Fallen Storm. Perfect if you need to just randomly generate an adventuring name site. Let us go back to the top and talk about our final thoughts. I'm so stoked for this. I'm very, very keen to run it very, very soon. One of the first things I'm going to be doing is looking at my own homebrew setting and how we can incorporate it. I was asked in the comment section of the Player's Quickstart Guide, do I think that Shadowdark is going to be just a dungeon crawler? And I don't think so. I think if you take on board those foundations that we've mentioned, the time and the darkness foundations, you can sort of set it anywhere that those conditions exist. So for me, I'm thinking about an urban setting that partially in ruins, and there is this terrible smog and fog um, that limits visibility, um, and that just gives us the perfect sort of setting. I mean, if you think sort of Necromunda, sorry, Mordheim. I'm coming on to Necromunda in a minute. If you think Mordheim from Games Workshop, that ruined city, I think it would work perfectly for that urban environment if you block line of vision with sort of a horrible fog, smoky darkness, this murk that the players are restricted by is perfect. Another thing that occurred to me when I was thinking about Mordheim is that, and I know it's a long way off because Shadowdark hasn't even sort of gone, kickstarted yet. It's fully funded, incredibly um, beyond its initial goal, doing incredibly well, and I'm watching it every day as it sort of ticks up and super excited. Um, my fingers are crossed that I genuinely hope they hit that 1 million marker, because that would be just outstanding. But it did when I was thinking about Mordheim, the other side of that is Necromunda, and I was wondering whether at some point we could do a horrible scavengy sort of science fiction version, um, where you're up against horrible xenomorphs lurking in the darkness, ready to strike. Uh, but that's where my mind is. I'm going to throw that thought to one side for the moment, and I'm going to focus on creating some crawling adventures in my smoke setting. Um, watch watch this space if you are interested in finding what we're about. Our Discord link is obviously down in the comment section as well. You can find us there. Jump on board. We run a ton of different games, and I'm certainly going to be focusing my attention on running some Shadowdark games, both actual plays and private games as well. So there's a lot to be done. I can't wait for the Kickstarter to end, and I'm very, very much looking forward to getting my hands on the full version of the rules. Thank you very much for watching anyway. I hope you found this in-depth guide to the Games Masters Quickstart Guide useful. If you haven't already, check the Player's Guide, where I do the same thing. I go through it step by step, explaining my thoughts on what's written. You might find it useful if you want an audio version of the rules. I'm going to do I'm just thinking, I do this a lot, thinking out loud. I'm going to do a sort of overview of everything in a much shorter video, my thoughts on the system and everything else, which will follow this video, and then I will be doing some YouTube videos of me world building Shadowdark in the smoke. So hopefully you have those to look forward to as well. If you get a chance, please support the channel by giving us a like and subscribe. That really helps us out. And in the meantime, watch out for the Shadowdark. It's most definitely coming. Till we next meet, take care, adventurers.